There is a pattern that appears again and again in biblical texts. It happens quietly. Most readers never notice it. But it often appears right before moments of major change. Not after the miracle, not after the turning point. Before it, and once you begin to recognize this pattern, it becomes difficult to ignore. You start noticing it across different passages, different stories, and different moments. A structure that quietly prepares the ground before everything shifts. When people think about biblical change, they often imagine dramatic moments. A miracle suddenly appearing, a voice speaking, a powerful event that interrupts the story. But when you read more carefully, the structure of many passages reveals something different. Before those moments, the story often slows down. Movement becomes limited. Possibilities begin to close. The narrative creates pressure. It narrows the situation. And this narrowing changes how the reader experiences the moment that follows. Instead of feeling random, the turning point feels prepared. One of the most interesting details in these stories is the presence of limitation. Something reaches its boundary. A resource disappears. A path becomes impossible. Human effort reaches its limit. The text does not immediately resolve the situation. Instead, it allows the tension to build. This tension is not accidental. It prepares the emotional weight of the moment that comes next. Because when everything still seems possible, change does not feel dramatic. But when every option appears closed, even a small shift feels powerful. Another element frequently appears during these moments: silence. The narrative becomes quieter. Dialogue slows down. Movement pauses. This silence may feel subtle, but it has an important effect. It creates a tension. In ancient storytelling traditions, silence was not empty. It was a signal, a way to prepare the listener, a way to create awareness that something significant might be approaching. Modern readers often focus only on events. What happened? When it happened? And why? But ancient writers often shaped meaning through structure, through rhythm, through pacing, where the story slows down, where it pauses, where tension builds. These structural choices guide the reader's attention. They prepare the mind for the moment when the narrative changes direction. Across different passages, similar structures appear. Not identical, but recognizable. First, a limitation, then a pause, then a shift. The story breathes and something changes. This pattern can appear in many forms, but the rhythm remains surprisingly consistent. Limitation, stillness, intervention, again and again. Once you begin to notice this structure, reading becomes different. Moments that once seemed unimportant begin to stand out. The quiet sections of a story feel meaningful. The pauses begin to feel intentional. Instead of rushing past these moments, the reader begins to watch them more carefully. Because sometimes the turning point of the story is already being prepared, long before the dramatic moment arrives. Perhaps the most interesting insight is this: major change in these narratives rarely begins at the loudest moment. It begins in the structure that prepares the moment. In the tension, in the narrowing, in the silence. So the next time you encounter a passage where everything seems to slow down, where movement becomes limited, where the story pauses, you might be standing at the moment just before everything shifts. And once you begin to recognize this pattern, you may start seeing it everywhere.